Let's start. We're here at the Norwegian Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I'm trying to give the opportunity to express the opinion about the protests that Romanians did here in Washington today. Did you have anything like this before, such a protest here at the embassy?
No, we have never had anything like this before. We've never had a crowd like this outside the embassy, and but I'm very happy that it went well. It was peaceful, and the group got to make their point. Their message is well received, and our job here is to convey that to the relevant authorities in Norway.
In your opinion, I know you're not discussing particular cases, but in general, talking about barnevernet of their role in your society, what I'm trying to understand is is there something we don't understand as Romanians of the role that this organization has in your country? Can you talk a little bit about their job, what they are trying to do, and why do you think the Romanians and other countries that had similar problems are not happy with the results and the way they were treated?
Barnevernet, the Child Welfare Service, is a service institution set up at municipal level to assist children that are subject to neglect or abuse or in any other way are mistreated within the family. It's a service institution for children, seeing the children's rights, and it is regional, so it's not one specific institution. It's not one organization, one body. It's a service offered by municipalities in Norway and controlled by a board at county level.
Okay.
And of course it's regulated by law. There are very strict laws and regulations regarding what kind of services this institution can offer and how they operate.
So it's not like a government institution or some kind of institution that had a central body in the capital and the rest of them are part of the main body. Or just
it's not a government body. They operate according to laws made by Parliament and policies made by the Ministry of Children and Family as part of the government. But they operate at local level and are kept in check, if you like, by a body at regional level.
And do you think in any way, like, let me ask you in a different way, because one of the concerns that people had about the way they were, the procedures that were taking place is the fact that, there was such a rush into, for example, trying to give those kids for adoption before the process of investigating was even done. And that was actually one of the most interesting thing that made the people come to Washington and ask questions, why, and what can you tell us about that?
Again, I can't comment on this particular case, but there are procedures for performing due investigation for in ahead of this municipal institution recommending that a care order be issued. That's the normal procedure. Investigations, recommendations for a care order, and that is then approved at the regional level, at the county level, by this board. There's also a separate procedure, and I have, again, I cannot comment on this particular case, but there is an opportunity to fast track this procedure when the need is seen to be immediate. And I don't know. Actually, I frankly don't know what the procedures are in this case, and that's why I'm very happy not to comment on it because. But what I do know is that there is also a fast-track procedure when the needs are perceived to be immediate.
In what way is this organization working? Like what people are concerned is if there is any like, let's say, this organization gets a lot of money to help with the children that are having problems. So they're wondering if there is any way that maybe some people could be abusing their power. What kind of checks and balances the system has to make sure, let's say if it's not a really problematic case where maybe there's some misunderstanding or maybe some cultural differences. What can you tell us about that?
The checks and balances is built into the system in the way this is built up by the municipal body doing the investigations and then providing a recommendation. So the decision is never made by the same people as that are actually performing the investigations. They do the investigation, present a recommendation with background information. So and then there's a board. There's no single person who can abuse power. There's a board at county level, regional level, and again there's also always a governor in each county that is the representative of the government overseeing what's going on within the county. So there are several layers of checks and balances. In addition, of course, we have a very strong tradition of civil society engagement as a watchdog, you might say, for government abuses or any irregularities. The civil society in Norway is very, very strong. So is media. Media is also part of the checks and balances here. And of course, Parliament itself. If parliamentarians get involved, you can do investigations. Parliament itself is is part of the checks and balance system to make sure that administrative decisions are correct and in line with the law that has been crafted actually by the National Assembly.
What you gonna do with? I know you got some signatures from the Romanian part that support this case. What are you gonna do on your end with this petition or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, no, the petition is being sent back to, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the relevant authorities in Norway. And we have the signatures here. We report the number and we'll send them home if they want to see proof.
Right.
But we will keep them here as part of the archive of the embassy unless there is a request to actually see them. But we have reported the numbers both from the US and internationally.
And what do you ask from them to do? Like what's the request? What's the Romanian side asking? And what's your address? In what way do you address this problem?
No, we are just reporting. We are eyes and ears on the ground here in the United States, and this is where the protests took place today. And our job is then to lend our ear to the request and convey that. So that's what we're doing. But we would also like to try to explain the way things are working in this area and how the child welfare services are working, and that's why we provided the group that came here today with some background information in a folder. And that is also why we've posted background information about what we are talking about now on our website and on our Facebook account.
Related to this case, or
not related to this case in particular, again,
but
with
in general,
reservation that.
But it related in a way because we brought this issue.
Yes, of course. It is. We had not done it if it hadn't been for the fact that there is attention.
Right.
We feel a responsibility to provide correct information. There is. I do read social media. I do see that there is a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about how the system is working. And we see it as our task to contribute to providing accurate information about the Norwegian system.
If you were to explain or give an answer, like what do you think the Romanians or other people are missing from the way the system works over there? I mean, obviously this family wants their kids returned, and they think they did nothing wrong to get them away, and even if they did something, they were expecting like a process where maybe they should be advised what not to do, and maybe have some kind of a supervision for a period of time to see if they're changing their behavior, if the things are getting worse. I mean, that's what surprised everybody, that so quick the kids were taken away. They were spread in different locations far away from the family, and that's what the concern was.
Yeah, again, I can't comment on that particular case, but what I would like people to understand in general is that for the Norwegian government and for the municipal child welfare services, taking children away from their parents, placing them in a foster home, is and should be a last resort. That is only done, as the law says. The law is very clear that there has to be serious neglect, maltreatment, or abuse. And such a measure also has to be seen as in the best interest of the child, and that this should be taken into consideration. There is a due process. This is not something that's just happening like that. There is a due process. Parents are consulted, they get a free lawyer, and they have the right to appeal. And also, I hope that it should be understood that in principle such a measure, to take children away from their parents, is and should be only a temporary measure, and the children, the parents have the right to appeal every year, and once they are deemed to be able to provide adequate care, the child should be returned to the parents.
Because that was another thing.
They're in principle temporary, these measures.
Interesting. It's good to know those kind of information because, for example, the family, relatives or the grandparents were asking to be given the kids to them if there is some kind of problems, but apparently they got rejected. So, it's interesting. You're saying that that's a temporary thing, and you can ask every year. Even the parents can do that.
The parents can do that. As far as I know, only the parents can do that, because the underlying principle here is that children are the responsibility of parents. Right.
But do they have to provide some proofs that something changed, or let's say if they're gonna come a year later, what kind of changes this institution expects from the parents, or in general,
I am not an expert.
You're not
on
sure.
that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't. I wish I could.
Yeah, I'm getting into a little bit more specifics that it's hard to tell.
Yeah, no, that's where we are, and but I do want to say also that I wish there was an understanding that religion can never be a reason why children are taken away from parents. This is a big misconception that I see flourish in social media, and it's quite simply wrong. There is no legal ground to take children away from parents because of religion.
Well, I mean, apparently what they were saying that everything started in school where one of the girls sung some kind of song that was religious or something in some kind of a performance, and then the teacher asked details, and she got the details about their family background related to religion, and the fact that so that's how she reported in the first place that the kids were kind of indoctrinated.
There is religious freedom in Norway.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's true the parents were from Pentecostal religion, and
lots of Pentecostal people and people from other religions in Norway, and that is not a problem in itself.
And what's also interesting is the fact that it's a mixed family. The mother it's from Norway, and the father is Romanian, and the fact that the mother was working in Bucharest to help children on the street, because that's apparently how they met. It's really interesting, that she ended up being accused of abusing its own kids and all that.
Yeah. Well, that's an ongoing case, and I can't comment on that again. But of course, it's a challenge when you have families with connections and loyalty and cultural family bonds to two different countries. But the prevailing principle is, and that's recognized by Romania also, is that you follow the law in the country where you reside, where the children are. Right.
But in the same time, Norway has to respect again the human rights, like universal laws that the country is member of.
Norway has to respect all international conventions and human rights related agreements, of course. And as far as I know, we do that.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time to answer those questions, and hopefully we'll hear good news, and things will sort out in a way.
Thank you.
Another
into consideration.
Important question that I forgot to ask is how, like, let's say in general, regarding to educating or your children, is it allowed in any way to spank your kids if something they're doing, or like what's the law, what's the rule in general regarding that? Like, I'll give you an example. I grew up, like if I did something bad, sometimes I would get taken by the ear or smack or something. Is that something that it's so illegal that you can end up in jail, or your kids taken away from you for doing that?
I don't really know. It's.
I mean, living there, you probably hear some kind of law.
I wouldn't do it. I was not exposed to it when I grew up. It was unthinkable. It's just not something that happens. Then, of course, there is violence in the home. There is violence, and there are violent people. People who. I mean, there is abuse of women, for instance. That's why we have refugee centers or safe havens, where women can go if they are beaten up within the family.
But let's say, for example, if a kid behaves in such a bad way, how do you deal with that? Like what kind of measures do you take as a parent, to, if he doesn't listen or he doesn't want to do...
There are other ways of punishment than physical ones. You ground them, you take away their weekly allowance, you send them to their room, or you have a serious chat with them. In Norway, using physical force towards weaker human beings is seen as a sign of weakness in itself. It's a sign of weakness, of, you know, that in a way that is the last resort for some people who are frustrated or insecure or don't see anywhere. You know, they if they run out of good arguments, they hit.
Right.
And that is seen as a weakness, and it's just not done.
Right, but do you think will that be a good excuse for the kids to be taken away? Like, if I'm thinking of my own situation, like I remember if my parents, like the beating I was getting when I was, you know, growing up for doing whatever, not listening, or my parents should probably be now in jail, or back then. But now, maybe at the time I wasn't happy, or at the moment I was getting the smacking, you know. But later on, I realized maybe they protected me from doing even worse thing, because they didn't do it because they had something against me. They were just trying to teach me something when I wasn't listening to what they were saying in the first place.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and I just have to be honest. I don't know what the law says. I just know what the practice is and how it's perceived. But what I imagine, I don't think it. I would guess that the law is not specific, but only says you cannot use or you cannot abuse or mistreat a child. But what's that? Is this mistreating?
Right.
Is hitting with a flat hand in the face mistreating? Maybe there's a distinction there.
Right, and what kind of force you're using.
Yeah, but sorry, you have to speak to a lawyer about the fine print of the law and how it's practiced. I can't tell you, but I can tell you something about the culture around it, the practice and the perceptions, how it's perceived.
Interesting.
It's not.
Yeah, I do think sometimes, you know, it's misunderstanding and the cultural differences and the way people perceive things as something normal, or maybe a way to feed your kids.
If investigations show that they've been physically abused or mistreated, then it's up to the police to press charges.
Right. I mean, because apparently from what the family is saying, and there was no signs like on their body of abuse, of being abused. Just, you know, verbal acceptance of, you know, maybe smacking the kids sometimes. So that's. But
also, I try to make a point of the fact that it's. You know, the law sees, or the law that's regulating the child care services sees it from the child's perspective. It's you know, what's deemed to be in the child's interest.
Interesting. Can I also take